Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to Earth and Sky. It's so great to see all of you here today with us, and those of you joining us at home, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please hit that like button on our Facebook page and please hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. On YouTube, you can choose how often you want to get our notifications by hitting that bell button. We really appreciate that. We like your loves, likes, and comments. We also appreciate any questions that you have. We're always open to questions. We love having discussion for those who join us in person and meditation for those who join us in person. If you're not able to come here, we do have an archive of some of our past meditations online as well. So today, to get right into it, I'm really excited. We're talking about Reiki. I love Reiki. It's an energy I've used for a long time. It's a wonderful system of healing. There are many, many different types of healing modalities out there. I'm a metaphysician, for those who don't know. I've practiced Reiki for 23 years and many other forms of energy healing. So one of the things that differentiates Reiki from other energy modalities is that you don't take on the karma of the person that you're working with. There's no risk of that at all with Reiki, which is a really nice benefit. It's one of the things that I had learned when I was working as a metaphysician. I specialized in HIV and AIDS patients in Phoenix, working alongside their Western doctors while providing alternative energy therapies. And when I would get really close and attached to certain patients, and sometimes I knew I could heal them faster if I just drew it into myself, and then I didn't release it from myself. Well, Reiki doesn't allow you to do that. Reiki just has healing energy that flows into you, so you actually get a treatment as you're giving a treatment. It's a divine energy that just flows into you, comes in through the crown of your head, into your heart, and then it flows out your hands and into the person. And it has a spiritually wise energy as well. So if you look at the words Reiki, it's two Japanese words. The word Rei means spiritual wisdom, and that's because it's a divinely guided energy. So other forms of energy healing that I do, I don't do them as much as I used to because I learned about the whole karma thing, which I didn't believe in at first at all. But I learned that if I force a healing, as other modalities will do, then that karmic reason or the karmic lesson, it's not that karma is a punishment, it's just that there's a lesson there. A lot of times when we get sick, there's something to be learned from it. And if I'm forcing a healing with somebody and they haven't learned the lesson, they haven't understood emotionally or mentally why they have the physical issues that they have, then that lesson is going to go somewhere in the cosmos. If you study quantum physics, it talks about how things don't just disappear, they transfer, and those particles will end up somewhere else. So if I'm healing somebody and not helping them to learn their lesson, there are ways to use those other modalities, and you help them learn the lesson along the way, and it's a bit of, counseling and talk therapy and all of that along with it to help them see what the root cause of it is. Then that energy can get balanced out. They learn their lesson and the karmic debt doesn't fall onto the healer. Now with Reiki though, it's a spiritually guided healing, the word Rei being divine wisdom, spiritual wisdom, and then the word Ki being energy. So instead of me saying, I'm going to heal this person and it's going to go here, I'm manipulating the energy to clear something out specifically here, I just allow that divine energy to just flow right on through, right into the person, and it goes exactly where it needs to go. And then, so the second word of that, Ki, is the same as Chi, it's the same as Prana. Ki is the Japanese word, Chi is the Chinese word, Prana would be Sanskrit. And so it's all different words for energy. We are all energy. We've talked in some of our life talks about the aura, which is the energy system around the body. So Reiki works with three things. It works with the physical body. It also works with the meridians, which is the energy line, the energy system that runs through the body. And it works on the chakra system, which is part of the aura. So it goes all the way out. It can start, 3 or 4 feet out, depending on how big the person's aura is. And then it gently will allow that energy to flow in and go in wherever it needs to be. So Reiki can work on a myriad of things. It is quite an incredible energy because there are no limits to what it can do. So it can be worked for kidney disease, it can be worked for liver issues, diabetes, pain issues, anything basically that's going on with somebody. It can also help with mental health issues as well. So it is basically a way to balance out the body, to balance out the energy system, to balance out the mind, and restore that perfect health and bring it back into balance. And it's a really interesting long history with Reiki too. Now, Reiki is really the same type of healing that they talk about with Jesus in the Bible, with laying on of hands. And in some Reiki treatments, sometimes I or other practitioners will actually put our hands on the body. Sometimes we work above the body in the energy field that's around the body. It's either way, it will work all the way through all of the levels of the person. And so I think Jesus was a wonderful example of how that Reiki energy can be used. He's one of the master teachers that we can learn that from. And it actually dates back long before that even. In the, I always need to remember what the name of the book is, but in the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, which is a book that dates back 4,000 years, quite an old text, they actually identified 32 different types of chi, or different types of energy. You have the habukis, which is that the negative energy. You have positive energy. You have energy for happy energy. You have energy that will show you where the disease line is in the body, so you can trace it out and heal it. Many, many different types. And it's amazing to me, 4,000 years ago they were researching and outlining it and describing all of it so people could be well, and to follow that and to learn how to increase your own chi so that you have balance, so that you have good health. And Reiki is actually a Japanese technique. It's also used for stress reduction and relaxation. What I'm really wanting to do is pair up with somebody that does the aura imaging. Some of you came to the aura imaging that we did at Right Natural Health, where they actually can take a camera and you can see a picture of what your energy system looks like. It shows what each of your chakras are doing, how they're spinning. It shows the colors of your aura. And he has a component called the healer's hand, which I played around with a bit. And with that, you can actually see how the Reiki is going in. You can see physically on the screen the colors of the energy as they change, as you see the Reiki going in and the patient's energy balancing out, brightening, opening up. It's really exciting to see. So I'm planning to pair with him to do 3 sessions. One where it's healing somebody that I'm working on for a physical condition. One where it's healing on somebody to work on an emotional condition. And one of my patients that just comes for tune-ups to feel better, everything's pretty good, but just to kind of get that little boost. So it'll be really interesting because it's always nice to be able to see that data, and it's great in our day and age now that we have the ways to see that data. A lot of that started to come out in the 70s, and now it seems like it's getting a little bit more feasible to look at that and to do that research. The U of M at campus actually was doing a Reiki study. They were doing a 10-year Reiki study. I think they finished with it now, but I haven't seen the results of it, seeing how that would affect patients. And there are a lot of different hospitals that have done Reiki studies to see how it speeds the healing process. For people that have surgeries, it will speed the healing process. It decreases the side effects, you know that one, decreases the side effects of medications, and it's just quite incredible. One of our people here, I love that she had experience without Reiki and then with Reiki before surgeries. So it's nice to be able to have the comparison and to be able to see studies with that comparison. The form of Reiki that I tend to use is Yushui Reiki Ryoho, which is the simplified name as opposed to the longer name of it. And it was discovered in 1922 by Yushui Sensei. And Mikhail Yushui is actually his full name. And it was really interesting the way he discovered it, because he had been really interested in learning a lot of things. He was born in Japan, but then he traveled through Europe and he traveled through China, getting more of an education, and he started working with somebody that ended up he became the secretary to Shinpei Goto, who was the head of the Department of Health and Welfare, and later became the mayor of Tokyo as well. Yushui Sensei was born on August 15th, 1865, And then after he had followed this career and went on with being the mayor of Tokyo, it really helped him, he said, to become a successful businessman, as well as learning about health and healing for people and really broadening. He talks a lot about having the balance of all aspects. It's about not just being spiritual, but also embracing the fact that we're here in an earthly body for a reason on this planet, and balancing all of the aspects of life, because that's really what Reiki does. It balances all of those different aspects. Now, after he did all of those things with his education and his career, he really wanted to go on to discover the meaning and the purpose of life and reach what the Japanese call Shinditsu, or Shinditsu Mei. And that's a version of enlightenment. It's a form of enlightenment where you just you just feel peace continuously. You don't have to work for it. You don't ever feel angry. You just feel that sense of peace, and it just begins to self-regulate within yourself because you reach that level where everything just feels balanced out. So he found a Zen master, and he studied for 3 years under this Zen master very devotedly. That was his whole life, was studying. He wanted to reach Shinditsu Mei, find peace, not deal with all of the other emotions and things that would come up, and just really reach that state of enlightenment. Find out what life was about. What's the purpose? Why are we here? What's the deepest meaning of it? And after 3 years of devoting every day to this, he got really frustrated. And he said to his Zen master, "Why am I not reaching this? It's been 3 years. Seriously, what do I need to do? Because I'm ready. I want it now." And his Zen master said, "Well, maybe you need to take a more severe approach. And it's a real big commitment, but you might need to die to reach enlightenment." And so that's quite a commitment. And so he wanted to reach enlightenment, so he set about the process. And this is a Japanese culture too, where they have strong commitments to things sometimes more than us. And but so he decided he was going to set about this pilgrimage. In February of 1922, he prepared to die. So he went out to Mount Karuna. He walked up to the top of this beautiful mountain, and in February, it was pretty cold, and he fasted. He didn't take any food with him because he was preparing to empty his mind, clear everything out, and die to reach enlightenment. And so he was, while he was up there, there was a waterfall on Mount Karuna that a lot of people would go to, and they would sit under the waterfall and have the waterfall pour down on the crown of their head, which is a method of opening up the crown chakra. So he was doing that meditation for part of the time while he was up there, and just having the water pound on his head. And it's interesting, I know some people who will do that technique in the shower with meditating. If you meditate in the shower and you just allow that water to just keep tapping your head, and you focus on just letting everything go, opening the crown chakra, it's similar to going out in a waterfall, if there's not a waterfall that you want to go under. And so he was out there meditating, fasting, 21 days into it. I can't imagine not eating for 21 days. But 21 days into it, all of a sudden he felt this like shock. It felt like lightning hit him, and it just was this. It went all the way through him, and it knocked him out unconscious. And so then he was laying there unconscious, and ended up coming to while he was laying there, and he started to get visions, and he started to see this system of healing, and he just started to have all of these downloads about all of this enlightenment just kind of starting to flood into him, and he just felt like he cleared. It was like he crossed over, but then he ended up coming back too. And so he was so excited when he came to, and he felt like he was full of all this information. He didn't expect to still be alive, and he woke up with full vigor, full of energy, full of life. And instead of just walking back down the mountain to see his Zen master, he ran down the mountain. As he was running down the mountain, he tripped on a rock and stubbed his toe. And like most of us do, when that happens, he tripped and he fell. Most of us, what do we naturally do? We'll take our hands and we'll hold whatever it was that was hurt. And he put his hands on it and held it. And then he realized not only was it feeling better just by having his hands on it, but he was seeing this energy that was flowing in, this brilliant white energy energy that was flowing in from the crown of his head through his heart, down his hands, and into his foot, and it was feeling better right away, and hit that vitality he could just feel circulating through his whole body. It was just incredible. So he just knew that he needed to go out and teach everybody about this, and so he ran back into town and started talking to everybody about it, and he started finding everybody who was sick and just sharing the information of it with them and healing them, and then also teaching others how to do it as well. And he ended up having these huge crowds of people that would come to him to be taught, so they could not only have him heal them, but so they could do it themselves. And it was very important to him that other people learn how to do it so that they can do it for themselves as well. There was a couple years later, I don't remember the year, but there was a big earthquake that had happened. And right after the earthquake, some people summoned out to that area, and they brought everybody to him, and he was able to heal a lot of people from the earthquake, all the damages that had happened. And so it just kind of continued on with that. Now, the way it came to the United States was in 1937. Mrs. Takata had studied under him in Japan. And when she brought it to the United States, there weren't a lot of people doing international travel back then like there are now. It was quite an ordeal to travel like that. And so she was really the only one that we know of in the United States that was teaching it. And so she changed a few things as she started teaching it. She said that she required a $10,000 fee, which in 1937 was a whole lot of money. And she also made it a very rigid and very strict practice, whereas Yoshui had talked about how Reiki energy flows, and we need to flow with it, because the energy itself is that divine energy that flows. It has a very fluid path as it moves through you and into the person, and it should be taught in a fluid way. And Mrs. Takata had said that it needs to be regimented with very strict rules. She would never allow any of her students to write down any notes. She would not pass out any handouts. They were not allowed to write the symbols down or anything. And so it makes it very hard to study, especially with all that was going into it, with trying to study. She did also bring a lot of value to it, though, too, because she really taught quite a lot of passion with it, too. And she really forced everybody to really focus, because if you're not allowed to take notes and you're not allowed to, share or talk about it with anybody else, then it is really, you're having to really work hard to commit that to memory and to put it into practice. And then it expanded when Mrs. Takata died in 1980, I believe. It was right around 1980. And after she died, a lot of the masters that she taught, because you have different levels with Reiki. There's Reiki Shoden, which is the first level, Reiki Akuden, which is the second level, and then Reiki Master, which is also called Shinpenden in Japanese. And so when she died, a lot of the masters all over the United States began talking to each other and saying that they didn't feel comfortable with this. They really felt like it needed to be opened up to more people, and they felt like they needed to have a way for people to, yes, get the importance of it and to understand it and to have a good working knowledge of it, but also to have it be affordable, because if it wasn't affordable, then it would eventually die out, because there weren't a lot of people that could do this. And it was such a divine healing to come in that it seemed like something that we need to share and have it be reasonable. And they talked about how, yes, there needs to be definitely an exchange for it, because whenever you have an energy exchange going in one direction, you need to have an energy exchange coming back. So they really reformulated a lot. They brought it back a lot more to the way Yoshui did it, which was just having a lot of flow, trusting the process of the healing energy. Mrs. Takata was the one that brought in where we have specific hand positions, whereas Yoshui would follow wherever the Reiki energy told him to have his hands, he would put it. And Mrs. Takata formed a system which a lot of us use today still, where it has several, I believe it's 13 hand positions that go around the body. And that is also very important because while, yes, the Reiki energy will guide itself, it does help to be near the area that it needs to go as well. So if you're doing all of the hand positions, then you're actually being able to flow that in through, circulating it through the whole body, providing a really nice treatment. So just some of the history about it, but it's amazing the things that can transform with Reiki too. It can actually be used to help if you're working on a business decision that you're having a hard time with. If you draw in that Reiki energy and you're able to clear and allow that to flow through. I've worked with people, one of my patients in Phoenix had 7 tumors in his liver. They were all gone. The doctors couldn't explain it because it was on all of their scans. In Phoenix, I would have the doctors work alongside them as they would do the scans and note the changes, and then working with Western medicine if it was needed. That was one of the cases where we held off on the Western medicine and just saw how the Reiki would work. And it can be just very clear in a lot of cases. A lot of the HIV and AIDS patients I worked with had various conditions that would go along with that. And so it was amazing to see how it could help lift the immune system, bring balance back. It works great for back surgery with helping speed the healing process, lessen the pain. It can actually be used with multiple sclerosis. I have somebody else that I had worked on with the MS. That was actually just one session too, but it was actually able to completely clear the MS. So the doctor said he's not showing any signs of that now. So it's incredible what the energy can do, and it's not me doing it, it's just allowing the Reiki energy to flow. I can't lay claim to the fact that I did the healings because it's not me, it's just allowing that Reiki energy to flow in. And when you take a Reiki class, you actually get attuned to different symbols. So one of the things I teach my classes a little different than some because I spread it out over a few periods instead of just doing it in a weekend. I like to let people kind of try it out, digest it, come back with questions, digest some more information, try it out, and then we go through the whole process. And near the end of it is when you get the attunement. And with the attunement, that's where I would actually draw certain symbols into you, and that opens you up for the Reiki energy. So it's attuning you to that vibration of energy. And so you can learn some of the aspects of how to do the healing beforehand, but to actually allow the Reiki energy to flow in, these symbols need to get drawn in, and then that opens you up to it. And so it's really one of my favorite things with the classes is actually during the attunement, because people will often get different visions or see amazing things, or they'll feel overwhelmed with certain like enlightenment or emotions that are just positive and beautiful. People that haven't had any visions or much meditative experience at all before sometimes will just go through amazing things with it. So there's no limits to what Reiki can do, and it's just an incredible form of healing. It's there's so many benefits to it, and not really any downsides compared to some of the other techniques that I've done. And so it's definitely something I recommend to people. It works great on animals too. For anybody who is attuned to Reiki, you can actually do it on animals. When we first moved here, I was volunteering at the Humane Society. The first thing I did was just go in and sit with the cats and do Reiki treatments on them, and it just really helps their emotional state. It helps them physically. It helps them be happy with where they're at, whether they're in a shelter or a home or whatever. It's great for so many different emotional, physical, spiritual, everything. It really is. I can't say enough good things about Reiki. It's wonderful. And they actually have classes for animal Reiki, if that's something somebody's interested in specifically too. just thought I would share some information about that. I think that about wraps it up. I don't want to take too much of your morning today on this. If you have any questions about Reiki, definitely let me know. And I will be teaching a Reiki class probably late March or April. I don't have the dates for that yet, but that will be coming up if it's something you're interested in. There are lots of people that teach classes too. I always feel like whenever you take Reiki, you should go to somebody that you feel like you really resonate with their energy, because whoever does the attunement for you, their energy imprints in you as that energy, as that opens up with that attunement. So find somebody that you resonate with, that you enjoy, that you'd like to work with if you're thinking about taking Reiki or receiving a Reiki treatment or anything like that. There are lots of wonderful people out there with that. And next week we will be talking about Imbolc, because it will be time to turn our wheel, and that gets us in a little bit closer to spring, which I think everybody will be a little bit excited about. The very, very early signs of spring, the lambing season is what they call that. This year Imbolc is on February 1st. So a lot of times it's February 2nd, but this year it's a day early, so maybe that means spring will come a little early. We'll also be talking a little bit about touching on what the moon will be doing at that point too. We have just gone through the new moon energy now, and we are going to be going into the third in that trilogy of super moons. It's just incredible that we are living in a time where we have that trilogy of super moons, 3 full moons in a row that are the closest to the earth. It's quite a magical time. So if you haven't already, please like that Facebook page down below. If you like the video, please hit the like button or the love button. We really appreciate that. Subscribe to us on YouTube, and please share it. Tell your friends. We really appreciate all of you and would love to help get the information out there if it's something that you are liking with us. If you have any topic suggestions too, definitely let us know. We're open to all suggestions. Thank you, and have a wonderful Sunday.